Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to talk about the thing that I see most new beginner photographers struggle with, and in order to succeed in fixing this issue, we need to talk about the difference between a photo's sharpness and a photo's focus, because they are quite different things. But to make it simple, here are a few basics. An in-focus picture means that you have successfully focused your camera on the subject, whether that is by means of manual or automatic focus, it doesn't matter, and that the subject is visibly defined in the frame. This is a relatively simple process, but in-focus photos do not mean that the photos are sharp. There are many things that can affect the sharpness of a photo, but the biggest concern would definitely be shutter speed. So how does shutter speed affect our sharpness? Well, most commonly, I think that when you hold your camera to whether it's your eye or it's just out in front of you, there's a lot of natural shake that you get from your hands that you don't even realize happens. And from the outside looking in, this may not look like a big deal. It may not look like anything is really happening with the shake, but to your camera and your camera's sensor, especially to the photo at the end of the day, if your shutter speed is set too low, you're gonna see a lot of shake and it would be very significant of a problem. Now I have a video that explains shutter speed and you can watch it here, but if we come back to the issue, that's only the first of two problems. If your shutter speed isn't fast enough and you're shooting, let's say, an animal or person or anything that naturally moves around a lot, a low shutter speed could affect how well that you can actually capture your shot, because you might get blurred edges or distorted movement. You'll never capture it quite as crisp as you want it to. But I'm serious here when I say that this seems to be the biggest reason a beginner photographer gets blurry photos, or at least not sharp ones. It isn't that they have a cheap camera or cheap lens, it's that they don't know how to use their camera to the best of its extent in the best way possible. Now, I wish I could give a one-size-fits-all answer, but that's just not simply how it works. But if you don't know anything about what you want to shoot yet, because you haven't even begun, but you just know that your photos you have taken aren't very sharp, here are a few tips to help you out. If you're shooting landscapes or stationary subjects and the subject matter is not moving, go ahead and shoot at a lower shutter speed. Maybe 1/50 is a good place to start. You can always increase the shutter speed to movement of, like, let's say, a tree or birds or animals in your scene, but if you're shooting a general landscape, a lower shutter speed is going to be okay. It's especially helpful to lock it off on a tripod as well to reduce as much motion blur as possible from the actual shake of the camera. However, most landscapes require you to make your camera's aperture smaller to get more detail from your actual shot, thus making the scene darker, which means you would have to either lower your shutter speed or bump up your ISO. So make sure to keep that in mind when choosing the type of photography and understanding what you actually need to do in order to get your camera's shot to be properly exposed as well as sharp. Now I have a series on the channel that you can click right here that targets ISO, aperture, and shutter speed and how the three work together. So if you are interested in that and you want to see that, go ahead and click over there, or click in the description, that works too. But let's say you're not interested in shooting landscapes, but you'd rather shoot portraits and people and movement and a bunch of things that are moving. What do you do then? A good place for portraits to start is around 1/250 or 1/500. I mean, I kind of vary in between those to start and work my way up depending on the scene. But if you're shooting something like a sports game or race cars or something that's moving really, really fast, you're going to have to bump your shutter speed up to at least 1/2000, 1/4000, something that can really freeze that frame in time without a bit of blurriness. Now, obviously, like I said, the higher shutter speed you go, the darker your image gets, meaning you have to compensate with your aperture and your ISO. So keep that in mind as well as you're always doing these things, but you're going to be able to capture a lot sharper of an image. But as a valuable lesson to you all when you're beginning, especially, but even if you're not beginning, always do some test shots before you do a photo shoot or just go somewhere to do a photo. Like, make sure that whatever scene you're trying to shoot, whether it's portraits or landscapes, you set your camera settings up properly, at least from what you feel like is proper. Take a few samples, look at them, make sure that they are what you want them to be, they're sharp as you can get them to be, and that everything is properly set up. Because the worst thing that can happen is you set your camera up a way you think is right, go ahead, do the shoot, do whatever, come back home, go into the computer, edit them, and you realize half of them are blurry and you throw those out anyways. So always prioritize a sharp photo over a properly exposed photo, because truthfully you can always fix the exposure a little bit in post. You can't really fix blurriness or motion drag in post. So prioritize sharp photos, worry about aperture and ISO after that. Always focus your shutter speed first. But anyways, with that, I'll catch you all in the next video. Thanks for watching.